All right, and with that, we can switch on over to the tip of the week, and it really ties into what we've been working on the last year is more integrations with BD. Now you can create leads using and import leads to your BD site using third-party solutions and feeds. Zapier is basically what's handling the integrations between things like TypeForm, Zoho forms, and other integrations, and then tying it into your BD site. So David, if it's all right with you, can I pass the reins over and you can take us through this this awesome tip of the week here?
Yes, please. So this is an update that's been hotly anticipated by a lot of users wanting to import leads from other sources and other online properties. So if we hop on to the next slide, we'll briefly cover what's possible first with the Zapier integration, and then we'll go into more detail about the leads specifically. So if you're not familiar or you haven't caught up on some of the previous webinars where we've covered Zapier and webhooks, with Zapier and other webhook platforms like Pabbly, you can integrate over 5,000 different applications with your BD site. So there's two parts to it. One is that you can share your Brilliant Directories website's data with these third-party applications. So this includes member signups, newsletter signups, when people submit the contact us form on your website, when member leads and reviews are submitted, new posts are published, when any other form on your website gets a submission, all of that data can be exported into a bunch of other third-party applications. And the reverse is also true. This is what we've been slowly rolling out over the last couple months or so, is the ability to import data from those third-party external applications into your Brilliant Directories website. So this includes adding new data to your Brilliant Directories site from these third-party sources, updating existing data, and then also deleting data. If a record in a third-party app is deleted, then that can be synced and reflected on your BD site as well. So far we have member signups. We covered that in a previous tip of the week. And then in this tip of the week, we'll be covering member leads. This is one that a lot of people have been wanting to do. And in the near future, we'll also have the ability to import new posts and reviews from these third-party sources into your BD site. So what happens with how leads are handled currently by default on your Brilliant Directory site? So there's two ways, two different types of leads that can be submitted on your site. The first one is that visitors can submit a general lead form on your BD site. This is when they just fill out the basic get matched form. The second one is when they submit direct leads. This is when they fill out and submit the contact form that's on your members' profile pages or listings. So we have general leads from the get matched form and direct leads from the member contact forms. With Zapier, or again, any webhook platform, the functionality of this is really expanded a whole bunch. You can use more robust and dedicated form or survey platforms to gather more lead information. And these forms will show this in the example coming up, but they can actually still be embedded on your BD site. This way, none of the user experience is affected at all. And so you can then match these members with your members with these leads from these third-party sources or applications. And it doesn't just have to be form or survey platforms. If you have a Google spreadsheet or RSS feed or really any other online properties that can utilize webhooks and platforms like Zapier, then those leads can then be imported into your BD site and can then be matched with your members.
That's right. You could do a lot of arbitrage here. If you have a source where you purchase valid leads that your members would want to potentially purchase, as long as those leads are fed to you in subtype of an Excel file or CSV file or some type of a format that can be parsed out, you can now basically import those leads into your BD site and then offer them for sale to your members. Just by a show of hands, if you want to use the raise your hand feature, who is connecting leads with their members on your membership site or your BD site right now? Feel free to use the raise your hand feature and we'll just get a quick count of users who are matching leads with their members. it looks like about half the attendees here are actually using their site to match leads with members there. I see Stephen and Rich's hands up. So that's good. Yeah, it's actually one of the main reasons the BD platform was created. You create a site, consumers or visitors come to the site, request that they want to get matched with a service, and then you sell those to the professionals who are listed in your site, the businesses and whatnot. But let's continue moving on here. Now, what's required for this, David, here? This is important here.
Yeah, so there's only a few important items that do need to be included when you're setting this up, and it's pretty simple. On your Brilliant Directories site, if you're going to be capturing location information with these lead submissions, so if you're going to be asking the submitters for a zip code or an address, if that's applicable to the lead, then you're going to want to set up pretty URLs with Google Maps for the lead locations to be geocoded. And we do have a support document that will walk you through how to do that. So I'll go ahead and share the link to that here in the chat. Yeah, so here it is. So it'll walk you through every step. It's pretty simple. It should only take maybe 1 or 2 minutes. And again, this is only required if you're asking for that location info from the submitters.
Yeah, David and I did this in this demo, and it took us less than 2 minutes just following these steps here. You just create an API key, and what this is going to allow you to do is when a visitor fills out a lead form using one of these third-party platforms, they just need to put the nickname of a location like Los Angeles. They don't have to add the longitude and latitude numbers, which is really what's needed to figure out the location that someone is entering. So by connecting this API, users can input nicknames of locations or just zip codes or city names or neighborhoods. And when that lead is submitted, it's going to allow Google to find the longitude and latitude numbers of the submission.
Perfect. So the other thing is on the form builder that you're using. In the example that we'll show you, we did it on Zoho Forms. They have a pretty robust suite of tools, and we haven't kind of showcased them before, so we figured that was a good example here. But whether you're using Zoho Forms or JotForm or Google Forms or any other form builder, you'll want to make sure that the form includes a field for the submitter's email address, as well as a category selection where they can select the category of member that they need. And if you're going to be having that field, you're also going to want to make sure that you can associate a number value with those corresponding category selections that are the same. So that value is the same as the category ID on your Brilliant Directories site. And we'll show all of this in the example, so it'll be a little bit more clear. And then the last thing is the location input field. So you'll definitely need the email address of the submitter, and then you'll need the category selection and or the location input field. At least one of those is required for the lead information. Next, what's required on Zapier? So like we've shown in the past, you're gonna just create a new Zap. The trigger will be whatever form builder you're gonna be using. So in this case, the trigger was a new form submission from Zoho Forms. And then the action will be to select Brilliant Directories and to create lead. After that, you'll just map the form submission values within the Zap, test it out, make sure everything's working, and that's pretty much it. And again, we'll show you how we set up the example that we made here in just a few minutes. One other thing are some important settings that you'll probably want to enable when you're setting up this Zap within Zapier. If you have the auto lead matching add-on for your BD website, so that leads automatically get matched to applicable members, then you're also going to want to enable or set to yes the auto match members option for the Zap. That'll make sure that these leads from this third-party external source will also be able to be auto matched to your members. The other thing is, again, if you're asking for the submitter's location, you're going to want to set the option programmatically geocode to yes as well. And lastly, if you are going to want to send the relevant email notifications Then send email notifications. You're going to set that to yes as well. Everybody would probably want to set that one to yes. And then again, just the last thing to reiterate, the category values within the Zap and within the form field options that you set up in the form builder, whichever one that may be, those values should match the ID number of those categories on your BD site. That way, everything gets imported and matched properly.
Yeah, if this is new, there's a little bit to wrap your head around, but after David and I got tested this right after its release, everything pretty much made sense, and it was actually more straightforward than the creating a member Zapier tool that we have.
Yeah, and again, this will make a lot more sense if you are a little bit confused when we show you the example that we set up here. So before we get into that, one final thing, a few items to remember. So at least when you're using Zoho forms, and the majority of this is also applicable for any other form or survey builder that you might be using. But again, just to reiterate, because this is an important point, when you're adding the category names as selection options on the form, assign the category ID number on your BD site as the value. And in Zoho, at least, make sure to select 0 decimals for those. You can also create conditional rules based on the form submitter's previous answer. So this is really the kind of main selling point or the main reason why a lot of people wanted to be able to import leads from third-party sources, is because with these dedicated third-party form or survey builders, they have so many options. One really useful one is the ability to have those conditional rules. So depending on what answer they select for one field, they'll then see some different form fields based on that previous answer. So that can really expand the possibility in terms of what you can ask and how useful the forms might be in terms of the information that you're gathering from them and providing to the members. The other thing is in the example that you'll see some Zoho branding on the form. The paid version of Zoho Forms removes that branding and also provides some other features. This is pretty common with the majority of form builders and survey builders as well, is they want to get you to pay a nominal monthly fee in order to remove their branding. So you will see some Zoho branding in the example, but that can be removed. You'll also probably want to set up a redirect page. This is an option within Zoho Forms. Again, this is a common option in pretty much all of the other form builders as well. And at least in Zoho Forms, there's an option to select the redirect page to open in the parent window. Selecting a parent window will create a smooth user experience. And then the last thing is that you can embed the form on your BD website to create a consistent user experience so that your users never need to leave your site. Or if you have some landing pages elsewhere, or you have some other website properties where you want to place this form, you can embed these forms on those other web properties. And then because we're setting up this webhook and the integration with Zapier and everything, regardless of where the form might be embedded or filled out, that information, that submission will still be sent into your Brilliant Directories website so that you can then share that with your members. And one final point before we get into the demo here is, if you haven't used Zapier before, you're going to want to generate an API key. This, again, is a pretty simple and straightforward process. We do have a support document with screenshots that walk you through every step of that. So I'll go ahead and share the link to that support document in the chat here.
Awesome. I've been skydiving before, and before you jump out of the plane, they have you sit through about like a 1-hour video presentation and before you get to the fun stuff. So I know some of these tip of the weeks, it's a little text heavy on the list, but now's the fun part. Let's dive into jumping out of that plane and actually seeing how this works. So let's see here. Let's find a good place to start here. I think the best place to start is, let's actually create a lead and see from a third-party source and see how it gets sent into the BD site, and then we'll pull back the curtain and see how that actually works. So let's actually, this is a Zoho form here. I'm just going to quickly get the share link, and what we can do is I'll go to a new incognito window. Let's see, new private window, and we'll submit the form here. So here, this is cool. This is where the conditional fields come in. So it says, what do you need help with? Again, we didn't go bells and whistles on the design and styling on this, but more for the form and function you can get out of this. So an example is roofing, landscaping, or home remodeling. We created a conditional response. So if you select the landscaping, that's the top level category. The next question is the sub-level category. And we even said, is this landscape project residential or commercial? So these are the subcategories of landscaping. We actually skipped the sub-subcategories in this case, but you can then have sub-subcategories. So if you select residential, then you can ask them, is it for the front yard, the backyard, or both? And you can continue like that. So this is a good example of a conditional rule that you can set up. So let's select residential here. Great, I selected my top and sub-level categories, and then we added these fields here. Great, we found pros who can help. And here's where it says project location. So it's really an open field here, and they can type in any nickname of a location they want. And I'll put Jason, and we'll put events at brilliantdirectories.com, and the phone number. And this is the webinar test. Okay, great. So we're on a third-party website, and this form can be basically embedded anywhere on the internet, including your own BD website if you prefer this over the default get matched form. So let's submit the request. Okay, in this case, I think we're redirecting to our site. Yep, webinar demo, form submitted. We used an old confirmation page from a ebook download tip of the week we used to have. So now I'm here, I've submitted the form. Let's go to the backend area and look at our new leads, member leads here. And we can see here, the name is Jason, events at brilliantdirectories.com. Here's the phone number, Los Angeles. And this is the webinar test. We can see the top and sub-level categories, landscaping, residential. And we can see this already got matched with a member who matches the criteria of the location and category in this case. Now remember, you don't always need the category. If your site is about pediatricians and you just need people to create leads based on their location, you can skip the category and just have them enter the location, or vice versa. But you got to have at least one of them, category selection or location, or both. In this case, we're doing both. So we can see here, if we go to match lead, we can see who this lead got matched with. And this lead got matched with our sample member, Lisa Jones. She matches the location, Los Angeles, as well as landscaping and residential. So this member gets notified depending on the price per lead, notified via email. Depending on the price per lead, they can purchase the lead. And if there were more members who matched this criteria, the system would auto match this lead with the member. So let's see exactly what we did here. Let's start with the form builder, because that's what we need first. Now, we used Zoho forms, but we did some quick tests. This also works with TypeForm, JotForm, Gravity Forms, and I think I was doing a quick test. I didn't finish it. Facebook has leads that you can create using like Facebook leads, and you can capture leads directly from Facebook and then create Zapier zaps with those Facebook leads. So most likely the majority of form builder solutions or surveying solutions, you can create this type of workflow. So what we wanted to do is rebuild the get matched form using Zoho forms. Let's actually take one more step back and look at what the get matched form looks like on a BD site, the lead form. So here's an example of a lead form. We're capturing the visitor's name, email address, phone number, location, some categories, a message, and this would create a lead on your site with the default form. Works great. So we wanted to recreate that using Zoho forms, but the way we want to do it, right? So we use the fields here. We did a drop-down field. What do you need help with? And let's click on edit for now. And we added our 3 top-level categories. In this case, it was roofing, landscaping, and home remodeling. Now, to David's point, what he tried to kind of hammer as much as possible was the way leads get matched based on category is with the category's ID number. So we can display these pretty names in the form, but what we want to do is really important. We want to go to, and majority of all form builders should have this when you're creating checkbox fields, radio fields, or drop-down fields. Even though the choices are roofing, landscaping, and home remodeling, we want to assign a value to each of them. Now, these are not 1, 2, 3 because it's 1, 2, 3. Roofing is the ID of the category ID on the website. Let me show you where you can see that. Under My Members, go to Member Categories, and we can see here our categories: roofing, landscaping, and home remodeling. And we can see their corresponding IDs are 1, 2, and 3. And that is what we entered as the numeric value, 1, 2, and 3, respectively, for these. Now, if your form is just for, you're just gonna make landscaping leads from one of the forms, you can create a hidden field with the value of 2 submitted with the lead. So the user's not even gonna select from a drop-down. We just know from the start that that form is going to be just for landscaping leads. So you just wanna create a hidden field with the value of 2 for landscaping. You don't have to have the drop-down. But that's basically what we did here for the top level category. And then the sub level category, we created one rule where if they select landscaping, this is the second field. It says, is this landscape project residential or commercial? And here we have the choices, residential and commercial. And let's go to the site and we will see under sub-level categories, if we filter for landscaping, we have residential and commercial. Now the ID numbers for these are 3 and 4, and that's what we want to make sure we set in the form. So if we go to advanced assigned values, residential has a numeric value of 3 and 4, and also the allowed decimal places, by default it was set to 2 and we had issues. We saw that we have to set this to 0. So allowed decimal places, 0. And let's put another drop down in here. And let's create a drop down, let's see for what? For the roofing, if you select roofing. So we'll do the same thing. Is this roofing job, and I'll show you why this is cool, residential or commercial? And we'll put the 2 choices, residential or commercial. And what we need to do is get the values. And we can see that for roofing, the IDs are 1 and 2. So we're going to add 1 and 2 and assign the value and save the changes. And we can go ahead and close this. So now we only want the roofing one to show when they select what do you need help with when they select roofing. So what we'll do is we'll create a rule, and we'll get more into this, but we created a rule here where if you select the what do you need help with, and if the answer is landscaping, then it's going to show the is this landscaping job residential or commercial field, and that's great. So let's do another rule. We don't want to save that. So let's create a new rule, and we're going to call this top category selected is roofing. And again, this is Zoho forms. Other form builders are a little different, but what do you need help with? If it is, there's other options here, is not, is empty. And if the answer is roofing, then we want to show that is this roofing job residential or commercial, and we'll add that. So you can create rules here, and let's go back to the builder part, and then we'll look at the form after this. So you can get deeper. Then you can ask for a sub level category using the same logic. And then we have here, we say, where's your project located? This is just a single line input field, and they can enter whatever they want. We made these required fields: enter name, enter email. That's the email field here, somewhere over here. Right there's an email field. We just dragged it in here, and phone number. And then we asked if they want anything else you want your pros to know. And that's the form we created. And those were some considerations to take into place with the category IDs. And then let's look at the settings here. And there's a lot of settings here, but the ones that are most important were the acknowledgements and redirects. So instead of they're using Zoho's thank you page, we want to redirect people to a page on our website. We created a page called /confirmation. And then this was the setting that was important to set, is parent reload the parent window, or open URL in parent window. And that created like a smoother experience for the user. You can show a splash message that flashes for a second after the form is submitted, and then the redirect too. And I think, David, over here, those were the most important things, correct? There's obviously a ton of other settings.
Yeah, those were the most important here in the settings.
Okay, perfect. So we created this form, and what we did actually is we went to, I can leave this page, we went to share, and we embedded that form right into our BD site right here. Let's go to the Get Matched page. Great. So as we mentioned, you see the Zoho branding, and I have to admittedly say, not the prettiest looking form here, but it's just to show you guys this example here. So we see, what do you need help with? Let's choose roofing this time. And then now we see, is this roofing job residential or commercial? And I'll choose residential or commercial. I think I need to create a rule when one of these are selected to show the next thing, but we'll switch to landscaping, residential, and it says, great, we found pros. So those rules have been completed properly. We found pros who can help, and I just put in my personal details, and as we saw, we submitted a lead. So now what do we do in Zapier? So we have a BD website, and we have a Zoho form, and Zapier is what is going to marry them together. And actually, I think we can just create a new Zap from scratch. It took just a moment to do. So let's do that together. And I'm just going to type the word forms here. So first you choose the trigger, like what's going to create these things. So actually, from almost all of these form solutions, Google Forms, WFeed Forms, there's a ton of them. We use Zoho Forms for this example. But all these form solutions, you could probably create a lead in your BD website. In this case, let's go to, and let's quick look at Facebook. Yes, Facebook lead ads, that's going to be huge because you could probably create leads directly from Facebook. So let's go to Zoho Forms. I'll try to go through this just a bit quicker. All right, so the event is on a new form entry. What do we want to happen? We're going to select the form, choose an account. We've connected our Zoho account. We're going to continue. And the form, we just have one form on Zoho right now. It's the lead form. Okay, and test the trigger. It's going to make sure that it's working. And it's testing that my Zoho form and Zapier are connected. And it did get a test lead here that we submitted. And we'll continue here. And then after the form is submitted, what action do we want to take place? Well, this is where the Brilliant Directories integration comes into place. So you might see a few that are being tested on. In this case, currently right now, the one that says newer available beta is the most updated one. The private one is only for BD staff right now, but this is the one, Brilliant Directories beta. That's the one you want to select. And the event, you can create a lead, create a user, delete a lead, delete a user, update a lead, or update a user. And this is what we're working on, is adding more event actions here. As mentioned, like creating a member review, and also adding like an article or blog post or a job or event post and things like that. In this case, we're going to create lead. And we'll continue. And it's going to ask you to connect your BD account. We do have steps on how to connect your BD account to Zapier. We'll put that in the chat here for you guys. And we'll go ahead and continue. Okay, great. Let me scroll up here. So we've connected Zoho, we've connected BD, and now it's just a matter of mapping the Zoho data with what should be mapped with the BD lead. So there are a few couple settings here. Auto match members. If you want to just add leads to the system but don't match them with members, so you're basically just populating your site quietly with leads but not auto matching them with members, you can definitely set this to no, but in this example, we want to set it to yes. And then send lead email notifications. That's if you want, when the leads come from Zapier, to send the lead emails to the person who submitted the lead, notify the members via email, all the emails that someone would get from filling out the lead form on your BD site, if you want that to happen in this case as well. And in this case, I'm going to set this to yes. So the lead name, that's the person who submitted the lead's name. And what we can do is now we just want to start mapping it. So I'm going to look for name, enter name as Jason. So this was submitted with the Zoho form test. So that's the name, lead email. You can search for email. And lead's phone number, type in phone. So we're basically mapping what was submitted with the Zoho form to what should be mapped into the BD site as the lead. The lead price, we're not going to set it in this case. And this is the tricky part, actually, the top and sub-level categories. You're going to be tempted to, let me show you here, to select, this is going to be dynamic. So what you want to do, let me just explain what you should do, is click on custom. And let me backtrack one quick moment here. I want to look at the printout from Zoho Forms. So here we can see the first dropdown was our top level category. I submitted it with landscaping. The numeric value is 2. So this thing that says dropdown numeric, it corresponds to the landscaping. And then there were multiple dropdown fields. Dropdown 1 correlates to the subcategory. It's a little confusing, but you'll get the hang of it once you do a couple submissions. So we want to submit the numerical value. This is why it was so important. Let me close this and go back to the create lead action. Let me set up the action. Okay, so top level category, custom, and we want the drop down, this one here, numeric 2. And we'll save that. And for the sub-level category, we're going to do custom. And we're going to select numeric 1. So this one's basically 0 and then 1. And we had a sub-level category, but we took it out for this demo. But this would be the subcategory here, the drop-down 1. Okay, so those are going to submit numerical values for the top and sub-level categories. Lead notes, those are internal notes. The lead message, that's the message that the visitor entered when they said, like, tell us more about your lead. In this case, we just wrote help in all caps. And then you can also set the default lead status. So you can have pending, follow-up, sold out, or if you want to match it, so it's they don't have to buy the lead, it's basically a free lead for those members, you can set it to matched, or pending means that they would have to purchase or accept the lead. All right, here's the next important one, is programmatically geocode. So basically what this is saying is take the nickname of the location, like Los Angeles, that the visitor entered, and go fetch the longitude and latitude from Google Maps API with that. So if you're using location, matching with location, you're going to want to set this to yes. And then you want to put the lead location nickname here. So in this case, we did Los Angeles here. Where's your project located? And if you did have the latitude and longitude for whatever reason, maybe you captured it with a more sophisticated form in the first place, you could enter those values here for longitude, latitude, and so on. Country code. And soon you'll be able to include file attachments. So if you want to capture a file, upload a PDF or an image with the submission, you'll soon be able to have it as an attachment. And really, that's it. Oh, here's the sub ID. If you had a sub level category also with the lead, you just followed the same thing you did with the top sub and sub level categories. And we're going to hit continue, and we'll test this action here. And this should submit a test lead into the system as well. Let's see here, sending lead. It says a lead was sent. Let's go to our interactions, member leads. And there we have it. Jason is crying for help here. So here's the message, and it's automatically matched with the one member who meets the criteria of the location, top, and sub-level categories. So this This Zap is now live. We can publish it yet again. This is an untitled Zap. This is a new Zap. So without me doing all the extra talking, could probably set this up in under 5 minutes. And that's everything that you need to do on Zapier. And what you do with your Zoho form is now you just embed this anywhere you want to embed it on your website or around the internet to capture leads from other website properties that you may own and feed them into your BD website. David, have I skipped anything? I know we go a little bit quick because there's a lot to cover, but is there anything essential that we should mention?
Just to reiterate, if this is the first time you'd be using Zapier or Pabbly or any other webhook platform, you'll again want to generate that API key first. And we sent a link to that support document in the chat.
Perfect. Let's open that up real quick here. Yeah, how to generate an API key. Perfect. Yeah, that's in the chat there for everyone. And this is just necessary so you can sync your BD site with Zapier as a solution. So yeah, create your custom form with a third-party site, set up your trigger, set up your action to create a lead into BD, and you're off to the races.